to another episode of the Jason and Bart Show.
What up, what up?
Jason and I are having a tiff right now. Before we started recording, him and I just having a full-on argument.
Strong.
And he's gonna hate me.
Strong word.
But
tiff is a strong word, I think.
I'm kidding. So we're gonna really start this. I hate using resources as the name for your employees.
Right.
That's my statement right there.
And I'm
going to start it right there.
And I'm indifferent to it. It's just a word. I think it matters in the context in which you're speaking and who you're speaking to.
Every time somebody says something about their employees and they call it resources, it's like nails in a chalkboard for me. My hair stands up. I'm like, they're your employees. They're people. Treat them like as such. I have this, and I know kind of where it comes from. And you said this before. It's like, when it's on the spreadsheet, they're just, they're there, but it's not a person.
Well, I think that's the thing is you added some flavor there to your thesis at the end, which was, they're people, treat them like that. Just because I call them resources doesn't mean I don't treat them as people. I think that's
I just have this
a little bit of a leap.
And I'm not saying you. I'm just saying there's the whole corporate world. A lot of corporations do that. They treat them they're just resources to them. They're just just another body to do whatever work it is.
Well, I think it depends on what your expectations are in the relationship between you and your team.
Right?
I mean. Of course, they're human beings, and they're, they call it human resources for a reason, by the way, and they don't call it human people.
And they're changing that name too.
So yes, because we need to change the name of everything to make everybody feel comfortable about everything. We are getting further and my problem with not the nomenclature, which is just like a pet peeve of
that's my pet peeve. That's
right.
literally
Totally
literally the only pet peeve.
Totally get that. I think where my concern is in working with a lot of agency owners is just how many of them either feel or actually are literally hijacked by their own companies and their employees, resources, employees, whatever. And I think a lot of it is around this idea of like empathetic or servant leadership without accountability. That's what I see. I see a lot of like, we get you and I are in we see some things where folks have a safe space to sort of talk about their experience as owners, and we see a lot of the subject matter being about this very thing around misaligned expectations between the owners and their teams. What should I expect from my team? What should my team expect from me? And it goes both ways. I think there are plenty of owners out there who like literally think that their team should have as much skin in the game and care about their company as much as they do, which is to me just insane. You're never going to do that unless
that's
give
just
them
silly.
Skin in the game.
Like, right, that's silly.
They don't
own it. They don't sign every.
But we see that dichotomy, right, in the expectations, and then you see a lot of like, well, I wish they would just care as much as I do, and like they don't know that I work on weekends and nights, and you're like, yeah, because you get to take dividends and distributions as a reward for building a successful company. And you know what they get? They get a paycheck. And maybe if you're nice, you're sharing profit or you're doing some kind of bonus structure, but that's all performance based. So really at the end of the day, and this is, I think, where it gets a little tricky is people are sensitive to the transactional nature between employer and employee. We become more and more sensitive when I think the reality is it's still highly transactional. Now, you don't have to treat people any less human, but I also think it's insane to start thinking of people as a different relationship to you than your employee. And this is the other thing I see, right? Family and friends, right? Johnny's amazing. He's been here for 8 years and he's like my brother, because 8 years ago when we were struggling, Johnny missed one paycheck, and I'll never forget that as long as Johnny is here. Cool. What's Johnny done differently in the last 5 years he's been here, while he's been getting raises and promotions for having tenure? And you've been empathetic through a COVID crisis and every other crisis that's come along, and you've given raises and all these things. Where's the value back to you as the owner of your company? And I get like the blank stare. And that is something that drives me nuts. That's my pet peeve, right? Which is you as the owner have taken all this risk and all this responsibility and everything on your shoulders. A, get aligned with the actual expectations of what you should expect back from your team, and you'll be a lot less disappointed, right? But B, keep serving them, but hold them accountable. It is a symbiotic relationship. They do owe you something. Yes, they do. And this idea of, well, I just have to keep giving and keep giving and keep giving more and more and more, so I get back the same is insane. And that's what I see happening a lot across the board.
And it's funny because I think, especially in our industry, that happens. So if you go to anywhere else, construction, any trades, that stuff doesn't happen. Those people are gone really quickly if you do that, right? No construction company will do that, or HVAC, or plumbers, or you have to go through that process, and that's how it works. Show up on time, do the job, and we'll pay you more. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just what it is. And like, listen, I grew up around those places. I mean, don't get me started in a restaurant world, because that's different. That's just a different world.
Although we both agree everybody should work hospitality or retail at some point in their lives.
Yep.
That is essential.
It will teach you a lot of things really quickly.
So many things. Yep, absolutely.
And you want to see some hard work, and there it is right there. But the idea
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you said something really interesting before, which is like, they're not resources, they're people. I think part of holding people accountable is having them recognize that you're the owner, they're the employee, whatever, but you're also a human being. And holding people accountable means there is sort of this give and take relationship there, right? Both sides have to give, and both sides should be taking. And if that feels uncomfortable to you and too transactional to you, my thesis is maybe you shouldn't be managing people. Maybe you should be a solopreneur. Maybe you're more comfortable like that.
Yeah, that's that side. The other side of it is, I've seen companies where, employees just more and more and more, and they complain that the owner's taking so much money and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, wait a minute, but that person took a risk. If you want to do that, go do that. Become your own company and do those things. Right.
This won't be popular either, but I look at it kind of like the Apple Store. It's like, hey, if you don't want to pay the toll or the fee, go build your own. But if you want access to the entire globe to sell your thing, it's the price you pay.
Exactly. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, like, it's funny how people don't see, and this happens in agencies and stuff like that, is we're as open as we can be, for most of our things internally.
Sure.
But you still miss the point of, like, guys, you see just what's coming in, and you think you know what's coming out, but then there's like slew of things that you never see, right? Taxes, there's insurance, there's this, there's that. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to go through. Business risk, like all the little things that, for the most part, most employees don't see whatsoever. And the bigger you get, the worse.
And I don't think they need to. I mean, I think
they don't need to.
Financial literacy should be around, like, how does the company bring in revenue? But most people don't really care about, like, the expense side, right? Like, so one of the things that we do in our semi-annual like finance and ops report that I do twice a year with the team is we talk about both sides of the house, because I do want the team to know where the company is investing the majority of the money. And by the way, the investment in the majority of the money is always back into people, always. Like, people make up by far the largest expense, right, on your P&L. And so,
they always will.
Right. The insurance gets more expensive. We're trying to get them better retirement benefits. We're getting them better, more flexibility, whether it's daycare, whatever it is. Like, we keep trying to put more and more and more right back into that, as we should, because they're people, not resources, right, in reality. But when I'm going through it as the person operating the company, like, I think you also have to be able to divorce yourself emotionally and compartmentalize the human beings from line items on your spreadsheet, because there will come times when you have to make very difficult human choices. And if everybody is I'm sorry to say it like this, but if everybody's a warm-blooded creature that's going to be really sad when they lose their job, and that affects you, again, my premise is maybe this is not the right thing for you to be doing. It doesn't make you a bad person.
I
to
mean,
make these decisions,
listen,
right?
I think
And to
when
make them based on
you,
math, by the way, right?
sure, but yes, you have to make those on math. But then there's that, when you actually do it, if you don't afterwards go get a drink or talk to somebody, and you just go, okay, I'm gonna go do other things, and here we go. I don't think that makes you human either. That's pretty cold hearted too. Like, I mean, laying off people sucks.
It does. It sucks
But
for both. It sucks for both parties. But I think there's this like connotation that somehow the employer doesn't suck for the employer. It only sucks for the employee. Believe me, most of us, I would refer not to be letting people go. Most of us are trying to grow our small businesses, not get
yeah,
smaller, right? We're doing it out
yeah.
of necessity.
It's necessity.
It's
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
utilitarian thing. Your job is to make the best decisions for the overall good of the company and
Right.
the team, not to do it on an individual by individual basis. And so when you start looking at people as individuals, I think you're making those decisions a little bit harder on yourself. If you can compartmentalize, like to your point here, right? Like I think that you can make these hard decisions and still, just because I call people instead of resources doesn't mean I'm treating them any better. You treat them better, show
Yeah.
them that
Yeah.
you care, show them you're willing to invest in their betterment personally and professionally. And that is kind of where your responsibility at the end of the day, lies. I think you and I talked about this a while ago. We had like a one of our core values was like originally was like happiness guaranteed or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And I was just like, no, guys, like we can't control happiness. I can't control how the employee wakes up on Wednesday morning in the middle of February in, New York. Like I have no idea what their mental state is going to be. And it's not quite frankly, it's not my responsibility nor the company's responsibility to make sure you wake up every day happy. So we changed it to satisfaction guaranteed, which was providing a satisfying environment. It's like saying like, I'm in charge of your well-being from 9 to 5 when you come to the office. But when you go home and you break your ankle doing something outside of am I still responsible for your physical well-being? Well, mental health and physical health are really the
Yeah.
same. It's all health at the end of the day, right?
Right. Right.
So like how much responsibility do we have? I think we did talk about this of like up until a point, you do have responsibility to make sure your people are as satisfied as possible.
Yep.
But at some point, you also don't have control. And to your point,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, don't just pull the Band-Aid off and be impersonal about it. I have to tell you, like, I kind of disagree. I think the longer you go and the more you drag it out, the actual worse experience it is for people. I think if you stick to the facts and you pull that Band-Aid off quick and you move
Oh,
on,
yeah.
then
I mean,
that's the way it is, because they can also do the same. There's
sure.
nothing preventing them from walking out tomorrow and leaving you in
Yeah,
the lurch.
yeah,
And then what,
absolutely.
right?
I
So,
don't disagree on those kind of things. I think, going back to my first statement of resources, I think I really mean on, yes, it's a pet peeve when somebody uses it, but there's a lot of corporations, a lot of big companies that use it as, it's not it's not how we use it, right? It's not the people thing, just what you were saying, right? Yes, there's certain aspects of that. I think it's just that every time somebody uses it from a client or from a bigger company or whatever, I always take it as the bad side of it. You know what I mean? They just use it as that, not as the person.
I
And that's
wonder where
always
that
been my
like
thing.
tipping point is, like in terms of scale, because I think at some point it does
I
get
think
too
small
big.
companies do it too. I think small companies
Yeah.
do it too. It's how you interact with people,
Yeah.
right? Um, I think that's the like that's always been my little thing, and it's funny because it's kind of weirdly enough where I'm kind of vocal about it when somebody, to our people
Oh,
or the
you
people
called me
we
out on it right away.
I did, and
That's
it's just
great.
been like there's only a few things that bug me, and like when it's corporate speak, and that one really just hits sometimes. Um, and maybe because it's even I think in past few years that's just they got me even more thinking about this kind of stuff with how you
Mhm.
relate to your own people. And I don't disagree with anything. Like I think you should fire fast. Like I think you should do it faster than slower. I mean, we're guilty of being slow about it when it comes to bad employees. Um,
Oh,
Layoffs
the
suck.
worst.
Yeah, it's the worst, right? But there's this human thing part of it that I just it's always been like that,
And I want to
and it's
can I say something really quick too?
yeah,
Like sometimes layoffs suck.
Yeah,
Sometimes it is addition by subtraction. Like sometimes you are getting rid of toxicity. Sometimes you are making
sure.
a call that a week after you make it, like half the team comes to you and is like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I'll
Right.
take that as firing, not layoffs. I'll make that distinction,
Okay.
even if it's layoff, even if it's technically a layoff. When you're laying off people and then because it was toxicity, that's just firing people.
So you're talking
It's
about
just
like
it.
you say really you're talking about like the cause behind the
Mhm.
termination more than anything
Yeah.
else. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I know I'm being semantic about
No,
it,
no,
but
that makes sense.
that's
That makes
my,
sense. Now I
you know
have
what I mean?
a better understanding. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That's my like little thing. And I mean, even firing fast is meaning like, you know, in reality, and this is like a weird thing, but when you're hiring somebody, you don't know. You just don't know, right?
Right.
When you fire, you definitely know.
True.
if they're
You're probably
if they're
beyond knowing at that point for a lot of us. We're like, we knew
but
6
that's the
months ago, but
right, right. But as much as that person is good on paper, you're never gonna see how it works out in real life. Or bad on paper, and they're great. It's just and some people just don't fit a certain company, but they'll fit another company.
and that's a great point. Like, so here's where I totally agree with you on the people versus resources thing. I think the danger in looking at people as just resources, which I agree with you, is not a great way to manage your business. But if you do that, then really you're just basing people's performance based on numbers,
Yep.
KPIs and targets
Mhm.
and all the rest of it. And I am the foremost person that thinks that is primarily important. Don't get me wrong, but you are missing the bigger picture if you're not actually getting the personnel side of it. So a lot of times I use the word personnel instead of resources, right? Or team, which actually is a lot easier. Because there can be rock stars on your team that are also toxic and actually prevent your team from doing great. So to your point about differentiating the nomenclature and the mindset a little bit, I think you're absolutely right. You do need a bit of both. I still lean a bit towards like the data tells you the overarching story, and then the personality part kind of comes in and you're like, is it worth working with this person to get them improved to meet standards? Is it not worth the time and the effort and the resources? And
Because
I'm
how
not
many
talking
have
about
you
people who have
seen
to do that.
letting go that rock star, right? And all of a sudden your team picks up and
Oh, it
they blow
happens
it out
all the
the
time.
water, right?
Happens all the time.
So yeah, exactly my whole point. It's like
Yeah.
you have to look at both.
Yep.
Right. There's performance probably, but there's the other side
See,
of
and
it,
you
right?
called it a tiff, and now I just think we're going to wind up agreeing by the end of this, which is,
Jason, that's our best shows. We always agree at the end. we just come both at the different versions of it, and we get to the point like we just did. And on that note, sir,
well, I also think we have like different levels of frustration about the same topics. Both maybe frustrated by what we see, but definitely the frustration is rooted in something kind of different amongst the same topic, which is always funny. But yeah,
hey
no, this
man,
was
listen,
good.
that's but also I think because we come from different sort of angles of it sometimes, you and I think eventually, like this is a weird therapy session for us sometimes,
Oh,
is
for
that
sure.
we both figure out a way to approach the situations we have, maybe from a different angle, and maybe solving a problem that we have.
Yep, for sure.
And on that note, sir,
There you go.
this was good.
And keep it bite-sized this week for everybody.
We are. It's
We've been
a
getting
holiday
a little,
weekend.
that's
We're
right.
recording this on a Friday, sir.
You'll hear us afterwards, but I hope everybody has a safe and healthy Memorial Day. Remember those veterans, guys. Seriously.
I don't. I was going to ask you what you're obsessed with right now, but I'm not really obsessed with it. More upset because it's just stupid. It's like, why is HBO Max making it Max now, and they have to resign into everything?
I saw this whole thing yesterday, this whole back and forth about this, right? And they were like, "Why didn't they just make it HBO?"
It makes no sense. But the best part, did you see Peacock tweet? He's like, we thought about changing our name, but shortening our name, but that'd be awkward.
And somebody posted the visual. Did you see it? Yeah, it was funny.
I'm like, yeah, somebody just came at it really, really well. So there's that. Anyway, and I think that's our show. Jason, have a great long
can I
weekend.
tell you what I'm obsessed with, or do you just get to go? You see what I'm dealing with? Do you see what I'm dealing with here, people? He's already out the door. He's already on his vacation for the weekend. Unbelievable. What am I obsessed with? Thanks for asking, Bart. I am obsessed with series finale of Succession on Sunday night. we are finally to the end. So we'll see who gets Roystar. And
Gets Roystar. Great.
That's, by the way, on HBO, which you'll be able to see
Now-
on
no, it's
HBO
now
Max
Max.
until next week
Max.
when it's just Max. That's right.
No, it's already Max.
Oh, is it? Did that happen? Oh, it happened on Tuesday, right? It was yeah. There you go.
And it's gonna be Greg.
I hope so. That would be amazing.
That would be the whole thing, right?
Hey, Max, come sponsor our podcast. We're talking enough about you.
Oh, wait. Because his brother is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
He was at the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that'd be really something.
It would be perfect.
It'd be like, mwah.
Be a nice bookend, because wasn't the first? I think the first scene of the first episode was Greg and his mom up in, like, he's in the car smoking a joint, and then he goes home to his mom.
Yep.
And he's working at the amusement park up there, right? And that,
Yeah,
actually, that would be really
and then,
funny.
like, he comes with like a lunch bag, right? And now he's like all put together.
The audience is like, I thought this episode was going to end like 3 minutes ago, and they're still talking.
The last episode, Greg riding on the city bike through the city streets, getting to the funeral was
so good.
He's something. And on that note,
not one redeeming character on that show. It's great.
Anyway, all right, guys. We'll
have a great weekend.
Week.
Peace.